This beginner's tips video is of course geared towards beginners. I'll have a more advanced tips and tricks video coming out soon. The first tip of the day, invest into stamina before you invest into any other skills. I would recommend getting your stamina to at least level 4, which will have your character at 200 stamina, which will then allow you to use certain skills on the skill tree that can help with land navigation. And of course, 200 stamina will at least get you using some of your stamina skills a little bit more consistently. More stamina means you can sprint around longer and also stay in the air longer, and you can use stamina skills a bit more consistently. And speaking of skills, here are the skills that I would consider investing into after you take care of that 200 minimum stamina. In the blue stamina skill tree, we have armed combat and also marksmanship. If you like to use melee weapons, which most of you guys will be, make sure to put some points into this, as it will increase the base damage of your melee attacks and also give you some cool extra attacks to go along with it. If you're a big bow user, you may consider going into marksmanship. What I actually did though is I focused on land navigation skills first to make the game overall more enjoyable, so I could get up mountains quicker and all that fun stuff. And that will bring you into the red tree right here, having you upgrade your Axiom Force. You would have learned Axiom Force in chapter 1 of the game, but if you upgrade it to level 2, you can do an aerial maneuver, which lets you kind of hop up on ledges. Very, very, very useful. And then a little bit more advanced is the aerial swing, and this can really swing you around the map in style, and it's also very useful in combat as well. As for flight upgrades, I would recommend getting that to 2. You're going to be able to fly so much quicker, and you don't really need to invest into the aerial roll skill early on. It's just going to use up too much stamina and not even feel that different from your previous flight upgrade. Since we're on the topic of skills, don't rule out puzzle solving skills for combat or land navigation. Don't rule out combat skills for solving puzzles. For example, force push can of course be used in combat to hit enemies. It can also be used to push in items into a space or a socket or a wall in puzzles. It can also be used to heal your horse. If you hold it down and then press the right button prompt, it can heal horses and also NPCs, and it can even be used to mine ore in places where you can't really stand to get your pickaxe or drill down into it. All you gotta do is just use force bomb, and bam, it falls to the ground. You can just fly right back to the wall and keep on punching. The stamina skill called stab is also worth an honorary mention here. You can of course stab opponents, but some puzzles may actually require you to stick your sword in a hole, and it won't work with regular attacks. Let's talk about artifacts. Whenever you're on high ground in this game, on top of a mountain, a hill, wherever, make sure to use your light reflection mechanic to scan the environment. And if you see some light being reflected back at you, that means that there's either a fast travel point down there or a sealed abyss artifact. You can use light reflection while on your horse. You can also use it while flying in the air. Sealed abyss artifacts unlock challenges for your character to complete. And don't forget to check your challenges from time to time, which can be found under journal and then over on challenges. And make sure after you complete a challenge to consume the artifact out of your inventory to get the unsealed artifact and actually be able to spend it on a skill. An artifact that's ready to be consumed will have a bit of a glow effect to it in your inventory. Also note that your lantern acts similarly to your light reflection mechanic and showing you the locations of certain artifacts and fast travel points. If you're struggling with puzzles or challenges but you still want to get artifacts, don't forget in the bottom left of the screen next to the minimap is a little bit of an XP type of bar, and when you kill opponents this starts to fill up. And once that bar fills out, you get yourself a free artifact. The next tip is don't put off the main quest for too long. So chapters 1 and 2 of the main story will get you some essential skills that you don't have to spend artifacts on. And it will also unlock some armor from different vendors. And you'll even unlock a vendor that allows you to sell unpackaged trade goods, which is a good way to farm some silver. And in chapter 3, a witch quest will end up proccing. I think a bird drops off a letter to your character. And if you do that witch quest, you'll then unlock the ability to slot abyss cores into your gear. And these can be pretty powerful. For someone who wants to have unlocked a lot of the camp features and get that process going of having that home base, you're going to want to get to Chapter 5. I'm certainly not saying rush the entire main story, but those first few chapters can really give you some valuable stuff to make your open world activities more fun and also unlock more of those systems and mechanics. The spirit attack that you learn in the tutorial that looks like this, it's right bumper and right trigger on controller, can actually take out wagons and even watchtowers in the world, and it can even take out certain things such as trees if you don't happen to have an axe on you. As long as you can aim it right, check this out. Pretty cool. Now your regular light and heavy attacks won't actually be able to do that, but a few of your skills that use up spirit will be able to, including force palm. Now let's talk about inventory management. So draw your eye to the bottom right of the screen and take note that you can actually sort your inventory by a few different categories here. Also, you may see that I have 91 out of 104 items in my inventory, but there's not actually 91 icons showing, and the reason is I'm using the grouping feature. So to group items, simply scroll over the icon and then hold down the appropriate button. On mouse and keyboard it is T, and if I hold down group over meat, you're going to notice that all the meat and the fish disappeared out of my inventory except one of them, which is this one right here, and now they've all been grouped into this side inventory category. Now with that said, it doesn't actually free up space in your inventory. I'm still at 91 out of 104, but it does make it a little bit easier on the eye. I don't necessarily recommend doing this for all of your equipment and items because sometimes the grouping is a little bit confusing, but for things like crafting materials, this can just be a huge stress reliever when you look at your inventory. This next tip deals with inventory space. So I'd highly recommend early on in the game doing some of the faction quests, specifically the Hernand commissions. Many of these will reward you with more inventory space, such as a medium bag right here for completing Renee's request, and this will give you permanent inventory space you'll have for the rest of the game. Also, make sure to check bulletin boards when you come into towns because you can get some good quests that way. Also note that most vendors that you interact with will actually sell a small or medium bag that you can buy directly from them, and this will also give you permanent increase to your inventory space. Buy these every time you can if you can afford them, and every so often, at least in my game, I can buy it again from the same vendor. Quick tip about recipes, and this also applies to some other forms of paper that you're going to have in your inventory, but after you learn a recipe, you no longer have use for it in your inventory. In the game's current version, it still keeps it in there. What you can do is you can buy a recipe from a vendor, you can learn it, and then you can go ahead and sell it back, or perhaps you find a recipe and find a vendor that will buy it from you after you have inspected it and learned it. Don't keep all that crap in your inventory for no reason. Next tip deals with the map. So if you're new to this game, you might pull up the map and say, what the heck, I found a fast travel point, but it's not showing anywhere on the map. That is probably because you're on the wrong tab. So I definitely highly recommend when you bring up the map, especially early on, just make sure that it's on the all tab and more things will show for you. And now you can actually see we have fast travel points showing on the map. Also note that fast travel points are not just abyss nexuses, those platforms that you stand on. You can also fast travel to abyss cressets, which are just these little pillars that stick out where you end up, getting an artifact from. And also with the map, if you're not zoomed in enough, note that certain things won't actually show up. So if you're looking for individual vendors, you might have to just zoom a little bit further in. Next tip, do things in the abyss. You might actually not even realize that you can. So if you bring up your map and then you press the abyss button, it brings you to a map of the abyss, which is basically the sky realm. And that of course is over the top of the regular map, and you can just switch back and forth. The cool thing about the abyss map though is any abyss locations that you've discovered, such as in chapter 1 of the main story, you probably have some fast travel points that have been unlocked. In some of these locations, you'll have more puzzles to figure out and more skybridge stuff to get into. Also note that if you happen to unlock something in the abyss that is over an area that you don't have a fast travel point on the ground map, you can just jump off the sky islands, do some skydiving, and then get to some of the locations that you don't have unlocked on the ground map. My cooking tip for this video is going to be to keep it really simple your first several hours that you play, and actually you can do this for the entire game. But if you're very early on in the game, you probably don't have the recipe for this, but if you go ahead and go into the cooking menu and then press the button to improvise, which is X for me on controller right now, if you just take one single piece of meat and then one vegetable, and you can of course find meat from killing animals, deer, goats, etc., and vegetables are scattered all throughout the land in boxes, crates, jars, and you can of course buy some from the vendors. But one piece of meat and one potato improvised together, and if you make that meal, it's going to be a heal that gives you 120 health as well as some spirit, and this is going to be a pretty decent heal for the first few hours of this game. You can cook a piece of meat on its own and get an 80 heal, but I find 80 to be a little bit lacking. You end up having to spam a couple of them, so that 120 heal only requiring one piece of meat and one vegetable is just a great way to get some food and not have to cost you a ton of resources and get some spirit regen as well. But while we're here at this campfire, there's a couple things. Anytime you come up to a campfire, you should consider holding down your lantern button to focus on it, and what this will do is unlock the icon of the bonfire on your map so you can return to it in the future with ease. But also note that when you walk up to the campfire with a cooking pot, it says cook, but when you hold down the lantern, it gives you another option of weight. So the tip that I have right here is that if you don't like fighting at nighttime, or if nighttime's too dark for you, you just don't want it to be nighttime, if you come up to any of these campfires anywhere in the world, maybe you're not near a bed that you can sleep in, you just click on wait. You can then pass time in the game, either 3 hours, 6 hours, or 12 hours to make it daytime and more enjoyable for you. Perhaps one of the most useful tips in this video is before you go out adventuring to make sure to reinforce your armor and your weapons. And the game doesn't really explain this or show you this, but right behind 𝑒𝑡𝑒, the weapons vendor, and also next to the blacksmith shop in the starting town, there is a grindstone. And if you use this grindstone, the icon will be unlocked on your minimap. And what using a grindstone does is it reinforces all of your melee weapons, including the ones that you don't actually have equipped on your character, and it gives them a nice boost to attack, which is typically going to be about a +6, as you can see right here on the Bolton longsword. I have reinforcement attack +6, and this will slowly go down the more combat that you participate in, but I have the +6 right now, and this is great to have before you go into a boss battle or before you head out. Now, another thing you can reinforce is your armor, and on the cliff that overlooks the Hernand starting town, there is a torchlight beacon. You should be able to see it, and just climb up that cliff and come around to the backside here, and what you're going to find is an anvil up here. For some reason, the anvil in the starting town, you can't actually use it. It's in the blacksmith shop, but it doesn't allow you to use it like you can with this one up here. And with the anvil, you go ahead and use it, your armor is now going to be reinforced with a bonus, just like your weapons were. Unfortunately, anvils seem to be a little bit more rare, and they don't show up on your minimap when you discover them, but man, what a great way to prepare before a boss fight. Hit the grindstone, hit the anvil, and you got a nice little overall power boost. Now, since I have you up here at the torchlight beacon overlooking Hernand town, if you want a little bit of a tip or a half secret here on a way to get some silver early on in your playthrough, next to the anvil, there's a tent right here. On this box right here, you're going to find an item called the Helm of Ignition, and you should be able to pick this item up without even being flagged for stealing. And the Helm of Ignition is worth 14.75 silver, which is a great amount of silver for early on in the game. Because I haven't found any great uses for this helm, selling it was actually really helpful to get me started. The next tip is when you arrive at a new town or city, look for a bell tower. If there's a bell tower, climb up and ring the bell, and what that will do is reveal a chunk of your map. Now, with that said, ringing the bell sometimes would reveal chunks of the map, and then it would make it confusing to me where I've already been and where I haven't been. So also consider not ringing it for some of you. But do note that even when you reveal the map in parts that you haven't been to, there's still some indicators that you haven't been there before, like certain icons just not showing and it looking a little empty. Next tip is don't be afraid to use your horse, because using your horse will actually level up its trust level, which will give you access to not only increased stats with the horse, but also some interesting abilities that you can do, such as a back kick, a double jump, really quick start when you're running, all sorts of great stuff. And there are legendary horses in this game if you can find them. If you want me to tell you where I found this white horse, just comment down below in the comments and I'll let you know. To see your horse's level, just go into your inventory and scroll over to your horse, and then in the bottom left you can see trust, and this horse that I have right now is only level 2, but I've unlocked 3 skills because of that, but there's many more to come. As you can see, a bunch of them are grayed out, and different horses will have different skills. The legendary one right here has more than the regular ones, so ease off on that fast travel and level up that horse. This next tip is if you want to commit crimes or you're wondering why stealing items is grayed out for you, that's because you don't have a mask yet, and you get masks as drops from bandits. You can get one by doing a faction quest, I believe. You can also buy masks from certain vendors, and when you enable that mask, you are now able to commit certain crimes, such as killing NPCs and stealing. And speaking of vendors, just southeast of the starting town is a wooden windmill, and this is a vendor named 𝑔𝑎𝑚𝑒, and he does sell a mask for only 10 copper. When you steal an item, there is going to be a big red circle that gets blasted out, and I'll show you guys right here. We're going to steal these smoked eggs, but do not panic. In the top right of the screen, you can see the crime bar right here for theft. As long as no NPCs see me right now, once that bar goes down, I am free to walk out the door and nobody's going to know a damn thing. If you do find yourself with a bounty out for your head and your map is showing red, if you go to a church in the game and you talk to this type of NPC in the starting town, his name is Alfred, he will sell something called a writ of absolution. and as long as you can pay the price, this will get rid of the bounty over your head. Then you're free to walk about without any risk of being arrested. This next tip deals with vendors. Every time you interact with your favorite vendors, make sure to greet them, as you do get a slight boost to your reputation, and you can also give them certain gifts as well, which will get that reputation going really fast. And when you get that reputation up, sometimes new items will present themselves and even new faction quest lines may emerge. But the tip that I really wanted to talk about is when you get to an NPC's shop, make sure to look around at the physical items that they actually have out, because sometimes these items won't actually be represented in their shop inventory, such as this helm right here. If I walk up to it, I can just buy it straight from here by pressing X. This next one's a pretty cool one. So you know that light reflection mechanic that we use to find artifacts? Well, if you do the focus light, which on controller you basically have to hold down L2 and R2, let go of L2 and then press L2 again, all while still holding on to R2. Welcome to Crimson Desert. When you focus like this, you can actually burn things in the environment, such as vines that might be blocking a door. You don't necessarily need a fire arrow or something like that. Also, interestingly enough, let me throw down a piece of raw meat. Let's use the focus light. Just hold it down, and now we have grilled meat. Now let's talk about farming for resources. I highly recommend anytime you come across a copper vein, an iron vein, a bloodstone, whatever, to consider mining it, even just one time. Maybe you're not in the mood to farm at that time, but if you just mine one part of it, what happens is on your mini map, an icon is now revealed for where this copper vein is. And several days later in the game, you can come back here and then mine it again. And this is really good to do because it will make it so much easier when you actually need to farm materials. You'll kind of know where to go, and you can kind of scan the cliffs that you've already walked past and see what materials are offered in different parts of the map and on different mountains. Couple fishing tips for you. Be careful fishing in areas that have a ton of rocks, as your line is more likely to break. And two, when you throw your line in, there's no reason to cast it super far away. The closer that you cast it to your character, the less you're going to have to reel in the fish, which makes the process easier and also much quicker. This next tip is going into your skills every so often and just reminding yourself what you have. You might even have a few here that you didn't even know that you have. So just go in here every once in a while and scroll over the ones that have some light on them, meaning it's already been invested into, whether you did it or if like the main story did it or if the game just started you off with it. It doesn't matter. You have a bunch of skills in here that you're likely not utilizing. So just keep an eye on these and remind yourself, because a big part of this game is using different skills. Quick little tip here when you're calling in your horse. If you call in your horse while facing the direction that you want to go, they're always going to spawn behind you. So what I like to do is I just turn the camera this way, hit the button, and then I keep moving forward, and the horse will be in front of me, and I can just be on my merry way. Now let's talk about bounty hunting, or perhaps you're like me and you're carrying a goat. Well, you don't have to carry on foot, even though you can sprint and increase your speed a little bit. You can simply go on your horse, and your character will continue to hold on to that creature or that character, and this will certainly save you a lot of time. And let's end the video with a few combat tips here. Number one, dodge is really useful, but people are really bad at it in this game. And the reason being is that in this game, it requires you to press it one time and not press again. So if you come from Souls games like I do, the first several hours I was playing this game, I would just be spamming that dodge button, trying to roll away, but my character would only sidestep. And for many bosses in this game, the sidestep is just not enough of a movement to avoid their attack. So if you do want to dodge, it can be good in this game. You just have to really practice and get used to only pressing it one time. The character does a mini sidestep into a roll. Once you get used to this motion and how long it takes, you can get really good at it against bosses, and you'll be dodging like a pro in no time. Now, if dodging isn't working well against a certain boss, you should consider trying to parry. I know it can be frustrating at first, but this can really, really open up some opportunities to attack certain bosses in this game. If you can just get the parry a couple times, you can really get in some good strong attacks. And also force palm. If parrying's not working and dodging's not going good for you, consider force palm. It can really actually stun a few bosses and let you get some attacks in. Another tip is some enemies you will be better off locking onto them, doing a hard lock versus a soft lock. And on controller, this is down on the D-pad, mouse and keyboard, it is caps lock. And this works really good against bosses where like your camera is going all sorts of crazy, and sometimes some of the smaller enemies as well. Generally speaking, I keep it on soft lock. I don't actually hard lock on, but just know that this input, or this option does exist. But just kidding, I got one more tip for you, and this is the best one of them all. when you're going really fast on your horse and you come up to a cliff, don't be afraid to just jump off. Oh, I did it wrong. Oh, do not do that. Do not be afraid to leap with your horse and then press the dismount button and it's going to shoot you up in the air and then you can fly away. And don't worry about your horse. The horse is going to be just fine. We landed on the ground and I'm going to call my horse to me. And there we go. Look, in 100% good condition too. So for me and my flying horse, we thank you all for watching this video. I do have some other guides that will be coming out, as well as one that is already out right now. It's a starter's guide to really get you started in the right direction right when you get to the open world part of the game. I'll have a link to that down below. Catch y'all on the next one.